So I want to talk to you a little bit about removing stuck on dirt and grime from windows, specifically sap. Sap that sticks onto the windows. I don't know if you've had this happen. For us, we live up in the north, up in Michigan, so we have trees that will drop little droplets of sap all over the windows. And so then when you go by and you wash it down with your scrubber, then it doesn't come off. And so you have to really try to work at it. It doesn't come off. Homeowner's not happy. We're not happy. So we have a problem. I just happened to be working on someone's windows, and I was using one of these, a scouring pad, which is fine. It's fine. You know, no problems. I like to go to light duty if I'm going to use a scouring pad. But the homeowner actually brought to me a dish scrubby and said, well, why don't you try this on the sap that was sticking to the windows? It's a customer that I've known, so we have that kind of relationship. But she brought me, she actually makes her own, but brought me one of these, and I tried it on the windows. Fantastic. And I'll tell you a couple of different things that I like about using a dish scrubby like this. To start with, they're just so cheap. You can go to the dollar store, buy a pack of 5 or 6 of these for $1. And they're just so cheap. Another thing that I like about them is they're reusable, they're washable. So you can use one of these on a couple houses. It'll just be pretty nasty, gnarly looking. But then you can wash it, and even when it looks like this, it still works just as good as the first day you bought it. So I really like them for that reason. Another thought would be, well, Rob, why don't we just use Quad Zero steel wool? I'm not saying that I don't, because I do. I use Quad Zero steel wool. Or some will say, well, why not use a scraper? I don't even have a scraper here with me, because although I've used scrapers in the past, sometimes a scraper will not just scrape, it'll scratch. If your technique is wrong, if the glass wasn't tempered properly, if it has those little security fibers in it, it'll grab it and it'll just scrape it all up. So I don't like using a razor for that reason. That's why I look for alternatives. This is actually a viable alternative option, using Quad Zero steel wool. I found this from, I believe, Loop the Window Cleaner was the first one that told me about this. A couple of problems that I do have with Quad Zero steel wool. The first is, although you can't really scratch a window with this stuff because it's so fine, you'd have to just really push on it to scratch a window. But what I don't like is if you add any sort of vinegar to your water, and even if you don't, sometimes you'll get this will start to rust. Quad Zero steel wool, it rusts, and so it's a one and done type situation. Now, you can get marine Quad Zero steel wool that won't rust. So I've never done that. Our local hardware does not have that. I didn't order it, partly because the increased cost in doing that, and partly because I found these, and boy do these work nice. Another option that I've found that's viable, I still prefer to go with these, but another viable option is just a hand scrubber. When you have a really gnarly window, you can hit it with this hand scrubber, and I mean, it'll take it right off. You can push as hard as you want on this hand scrubber. $1. I got this at the dollar store, and you know, it seems like the more I use it, the better it gets, because the ends get little splits in them, and so it really gets into the nooks and crannies. So I really do like this. And as I mentioned, the scouring pad. What I kind of like about the scouring pad just in general is the amount of surface area you can cover with that. I mean, you can really give it some gumption. But just a word of caution, be careful with the scouring pad. Sometimes if you get a more aggressive scouring pad, they'll start to put different material in the scouring pad that can scratch the window. I've seen it happen. Not a pretty sight. Thankfully, it wasn't me, but be careful with the scouring pad. So, with all of that being said, the different ways of getting sap or dirt, or if it's a construction cleanup situation, by far and away, my favorite is the dish scrubby. It's cheap, it's light, reusable, washable, effective, so effective. You can push as hard as you want. And just as a note, when you think about doing dishes, there's a reason they design this for doing dishes, because sometimes dishes are coated with junk that's baked on there, and so you gotta really push and get into the cracks, and it'll form to the crack. That's what it's made for. And so using it on windows, it's almost overkill. It's just nice. So in conclusion, this is my favorite. Just my opinion, this is my favorite. If you have your own favorite way of effectively cleaning windows, or any thoughts or suggestions, please do leave them in the comments below. And as always, please subscribe. Thanks.